Imagine waking up every day worried about money. Not just worried about buying a new phone or taking a vacation, but worried about whether you'll be able to pay rent, whether you'll have enough food for the week, whether a single unexpected expense could completely destroy your finances. Now here's the surprising part. Poverty doesn't just affect your bank account. It affects your brain. It changes the way you think, the way you make decisions, and even the way you see the future. Today, we're going to explore the fascinating psychology behind poverty and discover what financial stress really does to the human mind. Chapter 1. The brain under constant pressure. Our brains are designed to solve problems, but what happens when the same problem never goes away? Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every day. At first, it's manageable, but after weeks, months, or years, it becomes exhausting. Financial stress works in a similar way. When someone is constantly worried about money, their brain stays in survival mode. Instead of focusing on growth, creativity, or long-term goals, the brain becomes obsessed with immediate needs. Questions like, how will I pay this bill? What if I lose my job? How will I afford groceries next week? These thoughts consume mental energy, and the more mental energy they consume, the less remains for everything else. Chapter 2. The scarcity mindset. Psychologists call this the scarcity mindset. Scarcity means not having enough of something. When people experience scarcity, whether it's money, time, or resources, their attention becomes trapped by what they're lacking. Think about being extremely hungry. When you're hungry, food becomes difficult to ignore. Your thoughts keep returning to it. Money works the same way. When someone constantly lacks money, financial problems dominate their thinking. This isn't because they're weak or lazy. It's because the brain naturally focuses on survival. The problem is that scarcity narrows attention. People become so focused on today's problem that tomorrow's opportunities become harder to see. Chapter 3. Poverty and decision-making. Many people assume that poor financial decisions cause poverty, but psychology suggests something more complicated. Research shows that poverty itself can make decision-making more difficult. When the brain is overwhelmed by stress, it becomes harder to plan ahead, harder to resist temptation, harder to think clearly. Imagine trying to solve a difficult puzzle while someone is constantly shouting in your ear. That's what chronic financial stress feels like for the brain. Every decision requires mental effort, and when that effort is already being used to manage survival concerns, decision quality often suffers. This creates a dangerous cycle. Financial stress leads to poorer decisions. Poorer decisions create more financial stress. And the cycle continues. Chapter 4. The hidden impact on memory and focus. Poverty doesn't just affect decisions. It can affect concentration as well. People dealing with financial hardship often report difficulty focusing, not because they're incapable, but because their minds are carrying an enormous cognitive burden. Imagine opening dozens of apps on your phone at the same time. Eventually, the device slows down. The human brain works similarly. When financial worries are constantly running in the background, they consume mental resources. This leaves less room for learning, memory, creativity, and problem-solving. The brain becomes overloaded, and performance suffers. Chapter 5. Why poverty makes long-term planning difficult. One of the biggest psychological effects of poverty is its impact on future thinking. When resources are limited, the future can feel uncertain. As a result, immediate rewards often become more attractive than long-term benefits. For example, if you're worried about paying this month's bills, saving money for 5 years from now may feel impossible. This isn't irrational. It's survival. The brain prioritizes immediate threats because those threats feel urgent. Unfortunately, this can make long-term planning much more difficult. Goals become harder to pursue. Dreams become harder to believe in. And the future starts feeling smaller. Chapter 6. The emotional cost of poverty. Money problems don't just affect thinking. They affect emotions too. Chronic financial stress is often linked to anxiety, frustration, hopelessness, and low self-esteem. Over time, some people begin to believe that their circumstances define their worth. They may start thinking, "I'm not successful. I'm not smart enough. I'll never get ahead." But poverty is not a measure of intelligence. It is not a measure of character. And it is not a measure of human potential. Many talented, hard-working, and intelligent people struggle financially due to circumstances beyond their control. Yet the emotional burden can make it difficult to see that truth. Chapter 7. Breaking the cycle. The good news is that understanding the psychology of poverty can help break the cycle. The first step is recognizing that financial stress affects the brain. Many struggles that seem like personal failures are actually predictable responses to chronic pressure. The second step is reducing mental overload whenever possible. Small habits such as budgeting, organizing finances, creating routines, and setting simple goals can help free mental space. And finally, it's important to remember that the brain is adaptable. Human beings are incredibly resilient. Even after years of stress, people can learn new habits, develop new skills, and change their lives. Chapter 8. What we can learn from this. Poverty is more than a lack of money. It is a psychological burden that affects attention, decision-making, memory, emotions, and future planning. When we understand this, we begin to see poverty differently, not as a sign of weakness, but as a challenge that places enormous pressure on the human mind. The next time you hear someone struggling financially, remember this. They may not simply be fighting a money problem. They may be fighting a battle inside their own brain every single day. And understanding that reality is the first step toward empathy, awareness, and meaningful change. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join Cycloom for more psychology and self-growth content. Until next time, keep exploring the mysteries of the human mind.